ANC member, and also the frequently asked questions. I think if I can start, so that will be the two key questions that we'll try to address today. We hope that the session would be less than an hour, and we would want people just to engage, share on the platforms, ask questions, and hopefully we can achieve the objective of organizational renewal for the ANC. So we have asked Comrade Insaf and Comrade Vuyokasi to also join. When they join, we'll just log them in. So comrades, let's start because we don't want to waste time. I think as the Athlone Parliamentary Constituency, part of our brief is to do organizational renewal. So a lot of our branches in our area have asked us to look at how do we go about organizational renewal? What's the steps to do the online membership, and even start with why should they be ANC members and why must they join given the challenges of the organization. So I think there's many the reasons why people join. I mean, if I can talk for myself, I joined the African National Congress at a young age because I want to be part of a progressive force for change. The ANC is the biggest force for change in South Africa. The ANC is the oldest liberation movement, but also the organization that brought us transformation and freedom. We want to be part of that renewal because the ANC is the biggest force in South Africa. And if the ANC is on a path to renewal, it will also put South Africa on a track. And also, we don't want people just to complain, but we also want people to make a difference. As an ANC member, you subscribe to the organization's discipline, you subscribe to the constitution, but more importantly, you're part of more than 4,000 branches with 1.4 million members, and you're part of that democratic processes. So I think the key thing for us, we came out of the January 8th, where the president outlined some of the key messages for us. Our aim as the ANC is to build a non-racial, united, non-sexist, democratic, inclusive, prosperous South Africa. So that is the main aim. And we want to uplift the poor, especially all South Africans, especially the poor. And our primary objective is to deal with serving and solving the people's problems. I think as we know, a soccer club, they are there to look at dealing with soccer, religious are there to, so we also a form of organization, but our main purpose is to serve our people. Now, as you might know that the ANC is going to go to a national conference at the end of the year. And all our ANC conferences is also an opportunity for us to choose our leadership, ensure that there's accountability and renewal of mandate of leadership from the local level, which is the branch, to the region, to the province, right up to the national leadership. So I think that is also an opportunity for us to account where we are, but it's also an opportunity for us to do a state of organization, state of renewal, and also what is the work that we want. It's not just about personalities and leaders, but more importantly, it's about how do we serve our people better. I mean, we know what the mission is of the African Congress. It's always been to serve our people, to ensure a better life, to ensure that our lived reality gets improved. And we know there's lots of challenges, and I think we're going to talk about that. But I think our key thing is to unite our people, fight for social justice, deal with inequality, and also to ensure that we have economic benefit. We want to deal with the legacies of slavery, colonialism, oppression, and also we want to deal with that fundamental renewal that is needed in the organization. I'm fortunate we just came out of the NEC Lekgotla now recently, and there was some decisive issues coming out of that. I think the key thing that I took out of the NEC Lekgotla is that we want decisive solutions. We don't just want talk shops. Poverty, COVID has created a job bloodbath, and we want to ensure that we deal with basic income grant is one of the issues, a continuation of the SRD grants, look at job creation, issues of the low carbon economy, public sector localization. Those are some of the issues that came out of the out of the NEC Lekgotla. I'm going to put up a statement to that effect. But I want to come back to the January 8th and the organizational priorities of the ANC. I think we all know that there is a period of decline, there's a period of degeneration. Where we and for the ANC to talk renewal, but to start from bottom up, that branch, regional, provincial, local leaders that are reconnecting to our community. I think for us, that's in the ANC and side, people will benefit or by the decline and the demise of the ANC, especially the right wing. But I think we need to unite a progressive force, a progressive agenda. And I think the key thing is here that moral and ethic regeneration is a key thing, and servant leadership is what we the president need a social compact, also dealing decisively with poverty. We need all ANC members working with society, with economic recovery, construction, and also ensure better service. There's a term about defending against those who want to constitutional order and destabilize democracy. We see that. We see amongst us in our ranks where members want to undermine the Constitutional of Rights, the Freedom Charter. All of these documents are sacrosanct, and so we must contend. The Constitution is built on the sweat and tears of our freedom fighters that came before us, and we must defend those gains that we've made. Obviously, accelerating renewal and rebuilding is a key task, and hopefully tonight's program, where we deal with Q&A, where we go through membership, where we go through this, is an opportunity for us to continue that. Look, the ANC is a collective movement of people. None of us individually can do things on our own. Myself, I can't make change fundamentally. I'm part of a broad wave of thinking about that change. So today's is for us to go through that. So I'm right, but and I think we can refer to other documents, but what are the tasks of the ANC structures? I think the first thing is we need to renew our structures. So the ANC is the biggest organization after the churches and the soccer. It's the biggest organization in South Africa. It has 1.4 million members. Now, all of them are organized in more than 4,000 wards. We have wall-to-wall ANC representatives across the country. So I think for us here in the Western Cape, yes, there's more than 400 wards. And so we're looking for capable leadership in each of the neighborhoods. You know, when you vote, there's a voting station. So that's your neighborhood, that's your area. So for example, I vote at Nova Park Primary School. So that is my voting station. So we're looking to have ANC organizational presence at that VD level. There's more than 1,500 VD sessions in the whole of the Western Cape, almost 1,000 in the metro alone. So that's the organizational unit. Then in each of these units, they form a branch. So we have to go to conference and we have to have our organizational structures intact. So we have to work for fundamental renewal building. What does that mean? Restoration of integrity, building confidence in our movement and its lead, respect, and reconnect our people. I'm almost tempted to talk about building that relationship. If you had a strange relationship with your girlfriend or your wife, you have to woo the people back again. We must strengthen, address misbehavior within our ranks, and also deal with the counter-revolutionary aspects that there is. Now, we're going to talk about the membership. We're going to talk about how to become a member. There's more than, currently we have about 17,000 members, active members. Then there's 47,000 members that still must renew their membership. Now, we in the Western Cape, as the leadership, we have decided that the cutoff will be the 5th of February. So if you renew your membership before the 5th of February, you will be eligible to be part of the processes in the organization. So, for example, I took out a 5-year membership, so I'm good for still 2024. But if you need to renew your membership, you need to go to your branch secretary, which is Enrico, and you'll talk us through the program, where we will talk about how do you renew that membership. Once the branches are renewed, then there will be a process of branch general meetings where the branches will decide who they want at their local level, provincial conference, regional conferences, and as well as their national leaders. So that is the mandate that we have. If you're not an ANC member, then obviously you can't influence the process in the ANC. That's why we want to encourage people to not only renew their membership, but also encourage new people, new blood, professionals, young people, those that haven't been part of the ANC family. We want to encourage them to be part of the ANC family. So I want to welcome the other panelists that just came on board now. So welcome, Comrade Insaf. Insaf is a National Youth League, NYT. I don't know all the abbreviations, but she's the ANC Youth League National Youth Task Team member. Insaf Ayana Isaacs, one of our capable, strong, committed leaders of the future. Just say to the comrades, Comrade Insaf.
Salam, comrades. Goeienaand, Sanbonani, Dumelan, Nda. Hello, Comrade Insaf Ayana Isaacs. Very pleased to be part of this forum. Baie shukran, terima kasih, Comrade Faiz Jacobs, for facilitating such engagements. I think clarity is very important in present time politics, so that comrades have access to the right information, are able to follow up with due diligence. And for those who aspire to be referred to as a comrade and a member of the ANC, would be able to endeavor and do so before the 5th of February, 2022.
Great stuff. Thanks, Insaf. I'm going to give you an opportunity. So I'm just doing a quick introduction of why the rationale for why the ANC. We also talk about the ANC. The January 8th is quite instructive. So before we hand over to the actual membership, I thought it was just important to just introduce members. I also want to acknowledge some of the members that is here. Alessio Marcus. I know him as a young leader from Mitchell's Plain. Welcome, comrade. I also want to acknowledge Comrade Nathan, John, and also welcome to you. And all of the listeners on both the YouTube and the Facebook live stream. We want to encourage you to like and subscribe. So in this way, we can share the information. So, Comrade Zuko, I'm going to ask you now just to come in here. You've been an observer, you've been watching both the January 8th statements, you've seen what is happening in our body politics. You've also heard the statement of the NEC Lekgotla. Can you give us a sense of what you make of it, and if there's any questions or issues that you want to just highlight and flag? So comrades that joined late, I think what we want to do is we'll talk about the political overview, we'll talk about the topical issues of the day, and the second part will be actual membership online, frequently asked questions, BGM processes. But Comrade Zuko, let me get Insaf to settle in, and then I'm going to ask you just to make an input. Comrade? Zuko, can you just unmute?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it, my comrade.
Okay, thanks. I also want to plead with you that maybe I should also make a political reflection on the recent local government elections, because they also fit in with regards to the center message that both the January 8th and the Lekgotla, NEC Lekgotla, sort of was centered around, because both they were centered around the new path of renewal, which seeks to connect the ANC back to the people. That was also part of the election strategy of the ANC as we went to the local government election. So it is this reason that I also want to connect the local government elections and the results thereof. And part of that is because it will give us, because as you had alluded to that, the renewal is taking place from a local level of the organization. And if we make that reflection of the elections, it will give us a proper context wherein we need to locate the path to renewal, because there's a message that was passed on by the electorate, which was reflected through the election results. And this is more particular for us, particularly important for us in the Western Cape, because we suffered a further blow. Where do we then locate our response to the results of the local government elections, but obviously within the context of the message of unity and renewal, which was carried both in the ANC January 8 statement and in the NEC Lekgotla statement. So that is why I want to connect these three different aspects of our recent political activity. You know, on the election, as I said, that there was a message that was sent to us by the electorate, and the Western Cape had suffered, and there was a strong message that was sent to the Western Cape with regards to that. Now, one thing that also the new path to renewal speaks on, it speaks on reconnecting the ANC and ensure that it is rooted to the struggles of our people. And this is more important and is better located in the Western Cape because the ANC is in opposition in the Western Cape. Therefore, it would need to have more fighting capacity because the current government is in opposition. And I also want us to look at it in the context of the overall structures of the ANC, not look at the ANC alone, because the ANC's fighting power since its days of defeating apartheid was mostly derived from its ability to form various alliances with with community structures that were formed, with also the COSATU on this side and the SACP. So the fighting power of the ANC is in its unity, together with all its alliance components and structures of the ANC. So now, if we are able to locate that, would be able to now see that even the ANC Youth League currently is in its own path of renewal in all of its levels. How do we then make sure that such renewal goes all along at the same time to ensure that we increase the fighting power of the ANC? The need for a more radical and a united ANC Youth League in the context of the Western Cape can never be overemphasized, because we here have a government that does not have a clear youth development policy. And that is not a coincidence. The DA youth, its youth constituency, based on its social mobility, do not rely on government aid for its own development, because these are people that inherit trust funds, that inherit family businesses, and etc., etc. Whereas on our end, if we look at our core, which is the working class, which is our core motive forces, they also require that they have aid from government based on that the disadvantages of the past. Now, I want you, Comrade Faiz, if I can just pose a question. Now, I would love if we would be able to locate the nexus of the renewal project within a Western Cape that is suffering a blow election on elections. How do we then make sure, specifically now that the renewal is starting from the local level, how do we build branches that will respond to issues of the community? Before we can even maybe try and speak of regional level and provincial level, how do we build branches that are the nexus of community struggles, both within the context of the alliance? Thanks.
Thanks, Comrade. Look, I think it's a very critical question, and I'm going to try to be as forthright as possible to respond to it. You know, when the ANC goes to conference, we can't just have conference-based branches. I think that's the one message that is very clear. In the local government elections, our people are saying they're tired of us talking. They are not seeing us reconnecting and changing our ways. We are still having self-serving, self-enriching leaders that don't care for our people. And so our electorate is very clever. So the continued decline, especially in the metro, is a big concern for us. So when we go to conference now, if INSAF, for example, is going to build a branch in Grassy Port 65, it mustn't just be about getting the 100 members, but it must be about the political education that starts there, that the people of Grassy Park must see their hopes and aspirations is expressed in this ANC. The ANC must then connect with the Grassy Park Civic Association, and the leadership must be grounded in that. Now, just functionally, we have 116 wards in the city of Cape Town. And so we need to ensure that we have an organizational presence in each of these. When I talk about a voting district as a basis, so for example, there's probably 150 voting areas in Khayelitsha itself. We need to have that as a basic unit. ANC must live with the people, amongst our people. So the big challenge here is that we have not changed the leadership character to ensure that we have campaigning capability, mobilizing capability, connecting with the issues. There's a lot of issues. The fact that they won wasn't because they were strong. It was because there were subjective weaknesses in the ANC, and we can go through that organizational lessons of the local government. So clearly in the metro, people want new leadership. People want leadership that is ethical. People want leadership that is grounded, committed to serve our people, not in talking, but in actual work, in actual doing. And so that's going to be the yardstick. We can't just talk renewable amongst ourselves as the ANC, but my mom and your mom and the communities don't see that this person can deal with evictions, deal with drugs, deal with gangsterism, and we don't have a program of action. So I think before we talk about who's going to be the provincial secretary and who's going to be this position and who's going to be that position, let's talk about what type of ANC is needed for ICAPA, for Dala Omar, for the metro. What type of leadership is it? So we need a leadership that is committed to strong, non-racial practice, ensure that the youth, I believe personally, that we must have a quota. We must have a quota which says that we want more young people to emerge, not only in the local structures, not only in the regional structures, but also at the national level. I believe that we need to have a 50-50 policy, which says that, and I'm lobbying for this openly, that 50% of the NEC members must be under 50. That's a call that I'm making, and I'm going to lobby for that. Because you need to have that intergeneration, but not just quota system. It must start with getting the right people on the ground. So in short, this unity and renewal, a lot of us can talk the words, but it's very difficult to say, how do you build non-racial unity in Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain? It's two of the biggest townships where the majority of our people are staying. So what type of leadership, non-racial characters will ensure that those communities see solidarity between the African and colored communities, the working class, the poor? Because the same issues, evictions, higher rates, water, gangs, drugs, in all of the Cape Flats. But we have still a community that's still unconscious. And we as leaders have failed them to capture their popular imagination with messaging, with mobilization, and also provide hope, because that's the key thing. The DA is not providing hope. The DA is maintaining status quo, but they're better technically organized. So I think those are some of the issues. I can go on, but let me pause. Let me invite Insaf, just some of your reflections and also some questions on where we are, what are the issues, what's the burning issue for you? Maybe just a quick few minutes summary and also maybe a question or so. Insaf?
Sure, thanks, Comrade Faiz. I think you're being very forthright. And when eldership becomes forthright, young people don't shy away from being forthright too. And I think one of the things one needs to appreciate in terms of the balances of forces is that the environment has really become very fluid, almost as if not more fluid than gender or identity politics. And I do think that a case can be made for youth representation. And for those who have just joined across the social media platforms, my name is Insaf Ayana Isaacs. I'm a proud member of the ANC Youth League National Leadership. I'm a youth leader in South Africa and entrusted to lead the marching orders of economic freedom in our lifetime, which we feel should be better articulated as economic freedom now. And Comrade Faiz, on the issue of job creation, I think a lot can be said. In fact, in terms of the ANC Youth League's reflections, the slogan economic freedom now is something that resonated with many young people. And at the time that the ANC Youth League was making such a pronouncement, it resonated across the country. In fact, it grabbed the attention of the world. And so when one considers the shifts in balances or the shifts in power dynamics in terms of health equity in view of COVID-19, it's more appropriate to be more topical with this call and say economic freedom now, as young people have been dying en masse. And when the ANC Youth League is saying that there's a war against youth unemployment, it's a very practical thing. For every one young person that is currently employed in South Africa, at least or about 2 young people are unemployed. And how can comrades be comfortable when there is a state that ought to be functioning as a developmental state and such statistics about 66%? That is unacceptable. So by the end of 2022, in spite of the electoral processes of the ruling party of South Africa, what are comrades going to do to bring that number down? We are talking policy implementation. Millions, billions of taxpayers' money are going into the coffers of the state. And year after year after year after year, it is apology after better diplomatic apology about a strained fiscus. And meanwhile, in the local government elections, those who took the time to go and canvass with ANC canvassing cards would be able to tell the tragic story that South Africa can be characterized by Vavi's reference around 2013 of the cappuccino effect. That's not emancipation. That is just antagonism. That is absolute antagonism, and it's absolutely unacceptable. So the ANC Youth League is saying war against youth unemployment. At the start of 2022, for every 1 young person who's employed, about 2 is unemployed. That statistic must decrease immediately. And it can be done, Comrade Faiz. It can be done when those very costly policies that we cut hands for, when it was resolved in the bureaucracy, it must just be implemented. And the route to achieve this developmental agenda, even though it is called what it is, a war against youth unemployment, is to ensure that there's cross-sectoral accountability. We have seen an increase, Comrade Faiz. We've seen an increase in PPEs, and not PPEs, COVID, protection, what, no. Private-public sector collaborations or enterprises on the rise. Where is the integrity? Where is the ethics in drafting those contracts when people decide to trust national priorities in the hands of the private sector? Because before you know it, the private sector is blaming the public sector is blaming the private sector, and yet it's the disenfranchised whose living conditions, material conditions worsen. How dare there be a leadership who go around feeling proud of oneself when young people do not have access or an opportunity or an equal opportunity to be able to earn honest livings. Then you want to problematize those young people when young people turn to crime to eat bread. The reality is that a 20 rand, a 10 rand might seem insignificant in the view of Forex, for example. What is a 10 rand versus the US? But that 10 rand will mean the make or break between a family having dinner. And we can confirm this with the international reports around the living conditions, minimum wage, amongst other things. And it's tragic. And I truly believe that the leadership has a responsibility to graduate South Africa into a developmental state. There should be no shame in saying that South Africa is going to operate economically as a developmental state. Apartheid didn't end that long ago, according to my recollection. My parents lived through that horror. So it's not that far behind us, and we shouldn't pretend, or people shouldn't come and persuade you that you must get over it when it is first, second generation students only entering university. And yes, Comrade Faiz, there's a commitment to making education fashionable, but why must that quality education be a death sentence? A death sentence. For some young people, it's a death sentence because the expectations and the pressure is so great. So I do think that a lot can also be said around wraparound support structures in institutions of higher learning in terms of moving on this national forward developmental agenda. And Comrade Faiz, I think comrades have a responsibility to refresh this thing of Batopile. We're talking ANC now, talking ANC renewal, we're talking membership renewal, we're talking ethical leadership. Batopile describes, comrades, how you go about being a grounded, ethical, responsible leader that takes the time to listen to the society's needs, that takes the time to be able to follow up and be humble enough to say, you know what, I might not know the answer to this question, but I will get back to you. No problem. So I do think that comrades need to own up in terms of limitations and own up in terms of capabilities and take each other into confidence, Comrade Faiz. And this is something that I would appreciate your reflections on, because we find this uncomfortable nationalism finding expression in the African National Congress, and it's spilling over into the African National Congress Youth League, where because you are colored and from the Cape Flats, you must be associated with certain things and you must be uneducated. Tamaf, I'm a 2-time degree holder from the finest institution on this continent, the University of Cape Town. And in closing, Comrade Faiz, I also want to lobby something here. I want to lobby something, please. And this is not unfamiliar. Comrades, I want to lobby comrades to commit to 365 days of action against gender-based violence, please. And I think that that is a marching order that can transcend those racial divides, that can definitely transcend those class divides and the other kind of divides that wedge drivers like to talk about extensively as if pluralism doesn't exist. And my parting short, Comrade, is that I agree. I wish to close off with a note of agreement that we need to earnestly differentiate between nominal representation and genuine representation, because, Comrade Faiz, there's a difference. And I think that the intergenerational view that you bring to the table is very interesting. And I'm quite excited to see how comrades are going to embrace this concept of many young people at the table. If ever there was a time, I'm not the only young person saying that that time is now. Thank you very much, Comrade Faiz.
Thank you, Comrade Insaf. Very important key points. I'm also wanting to get Comrade Vuyokasi's voice in the room. So welcome, Comrade Vuyokasi, Provincial Executive Member of the Youth League. Comrade Vuyokasi, I'm not sure if you have listened to the debates, very key debates. We've started up with some of the January 8th reflections, NEC, Lakotla reflections, issues of youth and our rebuilding of our social contract, our commitment to gender-based violence, and all of those things. So are you open to just shoot Comrade Vuyukasi, are you there? Okay. Whilst we get Comrade Vuyukasi in, I'm going to respond to some of INSAF's issues. You can hear from Comrade INSAF's issues that you're passionate about youth empowerment, youth employment. I think there's just at this weekend's Lekgotla, we speak about unemployment, unacceptable high. You say it's almost 50% of the people, the young people between 18 and 35%. So 1 out of every 2 have a job. So I think INSAF, you're quite correct that because of COVID and also our structural reform have failed. So therefore we need to do things differently. I mean, yes, we are happy with the COVID, the SRD, the 350 grant, but I think we need to ensure that more must be done. And so I would argue, and I think it also came out of the Lekgotla, that we need to continue the SRD grant, but we need to move towards a fundamental basic income grant for all our people, especially the poor, so that we have a social net. And you see poverty and inequalities reproduced in our system. While the ANC is fighting and challenge inside, our inequality just gets reproduced. And I think that for us is a big issue. Yes, I think the government has the social compact, it's extended public works, community works. What we need is also a campaign to get the private sector must come on board to ensure that we have these opportunities. That there's also, the president spoke about creating jobs for South African, especially youth, South African youth. We don't want to be anti-African, and we want to express solidarity in Africa. But at the same time, we're also saying that some jobs must be reserved for our youth. I think those are some of the key issues. The compact that the president spoke about was also to talk about getting on board. We need to make tough choices. And I think the speaks to some of the choices to make this compact that we have. But Comrade, are you there? Do you want to just come in here? So what we're doing, we just want your reflections. We spoke about the January 8th tasks. We spoke about the NSC Lekgotla. And after your reflections, we're going to talk about the online system. But maybe just some of your reflections and questions that you want to grapple with. Over to you, Comrade Vuyukasi, and welcome.
Unmute. Okay, Faiz, we have 2 questions from Colin. Are you open to ask along?
Yes, please. If we don't get Vuyukasi in, we can deal with the questions, but then we're gonna have to go to the membership system because time is moving. So, okay, ask Comrade Colin, or do you want to just read it because I can't questions?
No, he wants to.
Colin, do you want to come in?
Thanks, comrades.
Yeah, please, Colin. Welcome, Comrade Colin.
Thanks for the invite, Comrade Faiz, and it's great to see your engagements with younger people. It's inspiring. I've got 2 questions to the youth in the room, and I'm aware that there are time constraints and there's some fundamentals that you need to get done, aka RE, the membership system, etc. But if we're looking at youth unemployment, right? Last year was 74.4% youth unemployment, and that's the expanded definition, which includes people who have given up on a job, right? So my question is around the basic income grant. Should it be a universal basic income grant or a basic income grant, right? And how should the money be dispensed, and where should it be sourced? If anyone on the youth team could give me some insights of how they think that should work functionally. Then my second question is around renewal. And again, to any individual in the youth segment, when we talk renewal, right, what does it actually mean from a functional perspective? So if you had to take a branch, right, a branch has to spend its time how? Should there be any results-based approaches? If you have 50% of your branch time dedicated to A, B, and C, what is that A, B, and C? The other 50% dedicated to A, B, and C, so that if you guys agree, there should be some kind of vetting process that takes place from whether that's at a branch level, at a regional level, or at a provincial level. What are the actual results-based approaches that the youth see? So those two questions, thank you.
Okay, great stuff. So look, those are key questions. I'm going to check with anyone, Vuyokasi, Comrade Insaf. Let me just summarize. So the two questions is basic income grant. Do we support it? Yes, we support it. Should it be universal? Means that should everybody get it, or should it be only for the poor? And then the second issue, where should the money come from? So who wants to take the big question? And then the second question is, how do the branch prioritize its time and priorities? So does the branch only focus on internal ANCs like conferences, membership, and challenges inside, or how does it spend its time to ensure that it deals with community-based issues? So those are the two questions. I see Insaf, you going to question one, and Comrade, can you, Insaf, come if you can, or anyone? Insaf?
Hello,
Yes.
is Manta?
Yes.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me give. Okay, Comrade Vuyokasi, I'm going to give you now. Give me Insaf. Insaf.
Okay.
Thanks, comrades. I think that is a mouthful. What can be said? Try and be brief. I think the basic income grant is a necessity, considering the consequential impact economically of COVID-19. Industries, private and public, have had to rethink operations in order to be sustainable. And the tragic reality is that many firms have had to downsize, particularly in the hospitality sector in South Africa, which has been a huge employer considering the lay of the land, the aesthetics of the country, and other examples can be made as well. And so I do think that a basic income grant can inspire the multiplier effect. I don't think one should ever underestimate the power of microeconomics and the power of spending and a healthy culture of spending. And I'm not talking about spending money that isn't technically yours, making a loan and spending. It does have its positive impacts, but I do think that a basic income grant can inspire the multiplier effect at grassroots levels in ways that a big finance would be limited, because your basic income grant would be able to facilitate that multiplier effect in a township, for example, where big finance projects might not be considering investing money in at the moment. I also think that South Africa has overcompensated on IMF funds. I mean, if you're going to the IMF, you're generally taking out funding for strategic or national priorities, your infrastructure projects, not for social grant bailouts. And I do think that the leadership needs to be mindful of the terms and conditions of taking money from the IMF for social relief. There are other alternatives that exist, African alternatives, Eastern alternatives, and the terms and conditions of borrowing that money is quite competitive in relation to the IMF. And so I do think that some consideration can be made there. And then in terms of disbursements, I'm going to go the classic route here. The post office was a very effective way of disbursing funds across the country. So I think that there might be an opportunity to revisit those models, tighten up some of the loose ends, appreciate the lessons learned, and see if the post office can be as reliable and as diligent as it once was in terms of ensuring that income can reach the poorest of the poor. And then Comrade Faiz, I think you would be tackling question number 2 about renewal. And a quick comment there. There are different stratas of leadership in the African National Congress. And those comrades entrusted in those different levels of leadership or stratas of leadership have a fundamental responsibility. And that is not just to manage the tensions and the reasoning, as Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa likes to say, but is to facilitate synergy. And there's a document called the Eye of the Needle, which is a very useful document that any branch looking for political direction ought to be reviewing annually. And amongst the kinds of strategic considerations that ought to be made, there must be key focus areas. And it ought to be a practical approach. For example, you could start the year by focusing on the children in a particular ward, shifting then activities to adolescents as a branch and interventions that, for example, clarifying rape culture, confronting rape culture through schools, making sure that there are victim-centric approaches at SAPs and other places where GBVF survivors go to for assistance and support, and then focusing on youth, things like sports and recreation, arts and culture, and then the elders. And in doing so, stagger programs in a way that facilitates intergenerational dialogue. For example, comrades can have a program where young people write letters to honor their fathers, and at a follow-up program, take those letters and have a cup of coffee with them. It's the simple stuff. And I'm absolutely confident that every card-carrying member of the ANC has not lost that capacity in spite of the outcomes of the local government elections of 2021.
Thank you, Insa. Comrade Vuyokasi, can you come in?
Thank you so much, Comrade. Thank you so much. Apologies for being late. My apologies. I think, the issue of organizational renewal, I think it becomes such an issue because when we talk about renewal, some of the things that we're talking about are things that were happening in the past. To have a live organization that is living. And so we find ourselves in the ANC when we have to talk about renewal, but we're also talking about the glory days, of the organization. So I think that's where we always find ourselves clashing with what exactly we want to do. And I think if you look at even the unemployment that is being spoken about, we find ourselves in a quagmire because we are a party in governance. And I don't think as an organization, we've looked into being a liberation movement and also being a party in governance. And so we've also have to find a way of how to make sure there's a synergy and there's a balance of that as we talk about a renewal. Yes, of course, we can talk about even things such as corruption that have now come to destroy somehow the organization. But there are many things that we ought to look at as how do we also approach and treat ourselves as comrades. If we look at ourselves, are we in the stature of being comrades? I mean, issues in our branches, should we be now talking about how to build an active branch? Because our basic unit of the organization, which is the branch, we're supposed to be championing societal issues. I mean, in the branch level, you were supposed to get your street committees. You were supposed to have your ward councillor coming into the meetings so that even the community can talk to the councillor. Opportunities that are available for young people were supposed to be spoken about in our BGMs and our BEC meetings. Also, even on this issue of youth unemployment and the grant and the fund that we're talking about, I think we've seen the grant system already. That is SASSA that is happening. And we've seen how some of it has been blamed on creating young people that are not reaching out for more because they understand that there's some money coming in. So I think for me, if you want to implement that type of system, which is an unemployment grant, you've got to also look at skills development. You've got to be able to make sure that if that person is receiving this grant, you check where are they studying? You check what skills do they need? You check also, have they applied, for jobs? Because remember, you also don't want to create a social welfare, state whereby everyone lives on a grant, but you want to make sure that the grant is a system that assists one to get into a point whereby they are self-reliant. So we need we need a system that is self-reliant as a country. For me, I know the post office, I didn't really have a problem with the post office situation, but I think SASSA, because you also, social development is always better placed in this situation, because you also want to be able to do the means test to be able to make sure that those that deserve to be getting this, these services are getting them to their full capacity. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Comrade Vuyokasi. Comrades, we are running a bit out of time. Comrade Zuka, I'm going to give you, and then we're going to go straight over to there's some Facebook questions that I also want to respond to, but Comrade Zuko, if you can just make short inputs on this one. Unmute yourself, Comrade Zuko. Unmute.
Thanks. Thanks. I'm going to just go straight to the question of the renewal of the organization. And I want to make an example. We led the ANC PLANS in Ward 39. We had a concept of having a Ward Youth Development Council that received allocations from the Ward allocations from the council. And therefore, we're able to drive youth development practically under the office of the councillor. That's another way that a branch can be able, it renews itself, because it places itself at the center of the issues of young people. But when we speak of the ANC, where we say how the branch should spend its time, if you look at documents, general documents of the ANC about its history and about its capacity to defeat apartheid, it speaks of an ANC that sits as a branch and develop program of action on how it can tackle issues of the community, so that it is seen as an organization that responds to the issues of the community. So therefore, an ANC Youth League branch ordinarily would sit its own meetings and discuss its own issues, but at the center of that branch would be political education, because it will inform us in terms of how best can we make sure that we increase the capacity of the ANC to respond to issues of the people, and how best do we mobilize the people behind the ideas of the ANC. Thanks.
Thanks, Comrade Zuko. Thanks for those questions, very difficult questions, very important questions, Comrade Colin, and also for all the inputs. I have two questions on Facebook. Comrade Morencho Gillian is asking, how will the ANC in the Metro change its strategy to gain trust of our people on the Cape Flats? If we look at the election results, we actually declined. We're now in the 20%. So we're no longer even a party that's get that trust. So that's a very key question. And then Comrade Rajendra Naidu is asking the question, how do we ensure that the NASDAQ resolutions and this the top office bearers, the NEC of NASDAQ, is kept accountable for the implementation of the resolutions, given that we didn't have a NGC? So those are the two questions. Look, I think I'm going to attempt to respond to that. I think, Morencho, your question goes to the heart of, if we want electoral power back in Western Cape, we see there's still hope in the rural areas. We see that our communities still have faith in the ANC in the rural areas, because our rural comrades have the capacity to unite both colored and African solidarity. We see that in Grabouw, we see that in Hessequa, we see it in Cedarburg, and we also have a leadership that is more grounded with the communities, and so the solidarity and the consciousness of our people. And also, that are some of the lessons that I think I personally feel that the Metro comrades could learn from our rural comrades. I'm speaking very This is my own opinion. I think our biggest challenge, our biggest organizational weakness is in the method. I think Comrade Zuko have alluded to us. How do we get that social compact? How do we get that contract back with our people? It's because I think for a long time, there wasn't that proper organizational renewal that starts from the bottom up. And Comrade Zuko's given us good examples. Even Comrade Boyokazi talks about the golden years and the glory days. Look, we don't want to harp back on history, but I think there's useful lessons. And even in SAF also talks about a program of action of how we take things forward. But Comrade Morenche's question goes to the heart. How do we regain trust by the people? We regain trust by the people by actually saying the right thing and doing the right things. By having counselors, the current crop of counselors that we have, they must be grounded in the communities. Our people where we are not, where the people have voted us in, like here in the metro, we need to then show that we're going to be effective opposition. So our councillors and our councils in the city of Cape Town and even our branches, wherever they find themselves, they must be effective opposition. They must keep the DA accountable. They must ensure that our branches regain that trust, Comrade Morenche. So I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from the rural comrades. I want to argue that, but I think we must not only translate the policies that we have. So I would argue African and colored solidarity, non-racial character, working with professionals, getting a lot of people back, stop the gatekeeping, because the ANC belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to Faiz and member of a member. It belongs to the people. So the membership system that we want to come to now, we must open it up to everybody. So comrades, on that note, let me just also deal with Comrade Rajeen's question. Yes, COVID has denied us to deal with the National General Council. We also didn't have a policy conference. We had Lehotlas and we didn't have those things, but surely there will be a mechanism for the National NEC to account on what the NASDAQ resolutions is. There will be an organizational report, there will be a political overview, and there will be an accountability mechanism. And the branches that will go to the national conference will then decide if this current leadership have delivered or not, or accept the conditions, or have we improved. I think there is lots of challenges, but I think there's also a little bit of progress, a little bit of interpret, and I think Comrade Naidu, let us be the judge of how far we have. Yes, we must improve. Yes, we must do better. But I can see, we can already see the green shoots of an ANC renewing itself, the ANC dealing with a rot of corruption. I mean, we have embraced the Zondo Commission with all the challenges. It was the ANC that instituted the Zondo Commission. It was the ANC's NEC that now says there's a committee that's going to deal with organizational culture, that corruption, nepotism, fraud, malfeasance, those things, that organizational culture that we will be dealing with it. So you see the green shoots, and you also see the pushback from comrades that will be disadvantaged from dealing with corruption. And so slowly but surely we're cutting out the festering, the ills of the past. So I think I want to leave it there. Comrades, we can go on and on, but I think the next session is more practical. The how to, the how to be online. So Comrade Wilson, I want us to go to Enrico. So Comrade Enrico, if I can ask you just to put your screen on and do the screen sharing. So Comrade Enrico is one of our branch secretaries in Athlone. He is the branch secretary for Ward 49, the Athlone area. He's my branch secretary. He works in the constituency office, and he's been kind enough to take us through an online membership system. So what he'll do is he's going to renew a membership on live. He'll take us through the system. What we'll do also, once he's finished, we'll also, Enrico, they say you must smile. So once Enrico take us through where he's uploaded the names, the registration, the ID, the photo, and also make a payment. Hopefully he can do all of that in 10 minutes. So can I ask all of us just to give him the chance to do that? Thereafter, we'll go through frequently asked questions on membership. and we'll also take members through the guidelines. So with that, I want to ask your indulgence. Let's listen to Comrade Enrico, and we can then ask questions and engagements after that. Comrade Enrico, over to you.
Okay. Good evening, leadership. I need to acknowledge Comrade Faiz, Member of Parliament and former Provincial Secretary. Comrade Inshaf, National Youth Task Team. Comrade Vio, I don't know when last I've spoken to you. I also acknowledge Comrade Zuku. And then, hi Colin, I'm glad you're online. And then just briefly, Nathan John. It's a new member that signed up with my branch last week. He comes from the ACDP. So I'm actually glad that we are getting members now from other parties joining the ANC. Comrade Faiz, I just need clarity if you want me to do a renewal or to register a new member.
Whatever you can show us, I think it's just for exercise, so go for it. We are in your hands.
Okay, I'm going to register a new member. This member is actually my niece, so she's given me permission to use her ID number online. So in order to join, you need to go to ancmember.org.za. It will open your screen to the ANC website. You are all able to see the screen.
Yes, we can see.
So for the username, new member, renewal member, member in good standing, the username will always be your 13-digit ID number. Because it's a new member, we normally use for the password, we use the name of your region. So we are going to use Dalla Umar, just Dalla Umar, and we are going to go to register. So it will register your account. It will ask for your personal details. Very important primary contact method, because all communication from HQ will go via what you put down as your primary contact method. So we put SMS, ID number once again. Cell number, because we've put SMS as the primary method of contact. And now you create your password to give you access to your online membership. Why it's important how you list your primary contact, because everything you do on your account, they will be sent an OTP to either the email or the number, the contact number you have listed on the system. As I've said, username is your 13-digit ID number. This is the password that you yourself has created. Now we go to log in, because you have registered on the system now. You see, our records show that this is a new member. You then click continue registration. If you are a member of the ANC and you have your old membership form with a paid slip to prove, you will click dispute. The system will then ask you to upload your membership form. Because this is a new member, we'll click continue registration. Very important that you need to load a picture. Aisha, how do I remove the? I need these pictures removed. Aisha?
Enrico, was that photo uploaded now?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that you need?
I need these pics removed in the corner.
Okay, just proceed to upload the ID.
Now
because I can't see anything. I can't see any other pics.
No, we don't really need to upload the ID. I don't really have a copy of her ID. She only sent me the ID number and a pic here.
Okay.
But I need to complete gender and language because the system won't take me any further if I have not completed that.
Okay, sure, go for it.
So I need Aisha to remove the pics that's here in the. Let's see something. Is my screen still live?
Yeah, your screen is still live, so we can't see the pic that you're talking about. So just fill in the form. Okay. So just to catch up for the comrades that's just watching, Enrico's doing a live online registration. He just registered his cousin, and he registered her, also then put up her details and also upload the photo. We just want to demonstrate how quick and easy it is to do. So continue, comrade Enrico, talk us through it.
So now I have listed now province, region, sub-region, and very important that you put in the correct branch. Now it's address details. Okay, look at that. Now it comes to term of how long you would like to be a member. 2 years. Next. When the new member gets this registration request under review, at that stage, the branch secretary would have received a SMS in the informing the branch secretary that he or she needs to go online because there is an approval that needs to either be approved or rejected. So as the branch
okay, so
secretary,
while Enrico's, because Enrico's also the branch secretary is getting that. What had happened now? There's a person that's been registered. Enrico, so now it's also got that notification, and new membership is coming through, and he's then approved it. Why is it that the branch secretary must approve new membership, Enrico?
okay, because the branch secretary is in charge of membership. So what has happened now on with this new system, that all branch secretaries across the country was given admin rights on the system, because membership is a duty of a branch secretary. Not only the branch secretary, actually the whole BC. But because they only want one member to deal with membership, that is the responsibility of the branch secretary.
Okay, so as we see, this is the portal of a branch secretary. So Enrico's the branch secretary. We saw that they've got 106 members in good standing. So just take us through the dashboard that you have in front of us.
Okay.
That are not branch secretaries.
The dashboard, register renew a member. We use this system we use if it is a member, a current member that is not registered on the system. We then use this option, register renew a member. Like I said, a member of the ANC that is not on the system. Because with this option we use, we then upload the member's membership form as proof that this is a member of the ANC. Membership list gives me access to see the overview of my members. It gives me the whole branch membership. It gives me the green thumb, members in good standing, the red thumb, either new members that is in the probation period or members that needs to renew. So all the members that is on the members, on the system, there's two types of members. The members is all those that has registered themselves as well on the system. Then we have the legacy members. The legacy members is members that was registered by HQ. And then these members still also need to do their own registration online. Approval work list is where a new member joins. So as the branch secretary, yes, Comrade Faiz?
Now, so you need to approve it. So,
and yes, so I click on review. So can Comrade Faiz see the picture now?
Yes, I can see and I can see everything. Yeah, so
so as the branch secretary, I have an option of accept or reject. So I accept, click submit. Now what happens after I have clicked accept? That member will now receive an SMS informing him or her to go back online to go and do payment. So I'm going to log back into her account now.
Okay.
The system automatically takes you to the payment portal. So I will also do payment now. I'm using a card. There's two options for payment. It's either you can do it using your bank account or you can do it via ATM FNB. So at the ATM, you will have the ANC account number For reference number, you will have, you will use your ID number.
Confirm.
So a copy of this invoice will also be sent to the members' account online.
Great stuff. So there is Comrade Spencer is the member now of the African National Congress. Yes. Is that true?
Yes, she's now a member, but remember, she needs to go now through the probation period of 6 months.
Okay, so there she can get through the dashboard. Okay, so Enrico, look, I think what we want to do, I want to thank you for taking us through this. It's really helpful. Comrades, we were supposed to go through frequently asked questions and the guidelines and all of that, but look, I think it's late and our attention span is also not so good. So what I'll do is I want to encourage us to do, we're going to do this again next week. We're going to start with membership. We're not going to talk politics next week. We're going to do membership online. We're going to follow on what Enrico's done. Then we're going to go frequently asked questions. But comrades, this is how easy, this is just show. And I want to thank Enrico and Comrade Spencer, who's the new member there. She paid 2 years, so she's now a member for 2 years. There will be induction, she will be introduced, and she will get the rights and responsibility as a new member. So this is why we did this today, was just to explain to comrades how the membership is, and this is part of that renewal agenda. So comrades, I don't want us to continue any further. We will continue this debate next week. Same time, same place, 7 o'clock. Hopefully we can do this for just an hour. I want to thank all the panelists, Comrade Zuko, Comrade Insaf, Comrade Buiswa, for your time. But through this, each one teach one, we're learning Xhosa's language, and we're also going to go ahead. So I want to ask each one of you to just say a final word, and then we'll close, and then we see hopefully next week. Comrade Zuko, start with you. Final words quickly, and then Insaf, and then Comrade Ruyakazi. Zuko, you closed your mic.
Okay. No, thank you so much, Comrade Faiz, and thank you for convening this platform. If you may allow me just a minute, I want to make a point and try and see. Comrade Faiz, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Just quickly, if I may just try and attempt a response to Comrade Baichia's question with regards to, I'll just go to few pointed areas. It's a change of leadership. We've had leadership that has been declining. Yes, we've had leadership that has been declining for the past 10 years. There's never been consequence management for that. So we really need to build active branches of the ANC, and we need leadership that has shown overall of the whole political leadership of the ANC. And another thing is that what the ANC...
Okay, comrades, I want us actually to close the session. So we're going to address all the issues. I think I hear what Comrade Zuko said, but can I ask Comrade Vuyokazi and Comrade Insaf just to greet? We're going to deal with more of the other issues going forward. I know there's a lot, but we're just recording this. We've now been at it for more than an hour and 30 minutes. Just say bye to everybody and we'll see each other again tomorrow at 7. Insaf, greet.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon everyone. And if there were to be a point of parting short, it's to say that it's high time that the African National Congress activate its thinkers and motivate its doers. And I think we'll start to see the kind of practical change that will inspire that romanticism with revolutionary etiquette underpinned by principles of high morale and high discipline.
Thank you, Comrade Insaf.
Thank you for the
Comrade
opportunity.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. I think for me, I would say, let's give space so that the best amongst us should lead. I think if we can accept that principle and allow those who are good and are skilled and are vibrant to lead us, and be understanding that the ANC that we are leading now is an ANC that needs to adjust to the current situation that we find ourselves in the country. So we ought to make sure that there's skilled leadership and there's leadership that really strives for success and for perfection, because we can't make any more mistakes if we still want to be a ruling party. So the best amongst us should lead and be at the forefront. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Comrade Vuyokazi. Comrades, I want to thank each one of everyone. Thank you, Aisha, for putting everything together. Comrades, I know there's so much more to talk about. Thank you, Comrade Enrico, for taking us through this process. It has been an eye-opener, but it just demonstrates that you can be a member in less than 10 minutes if you go through these steps. We want to help each other. So see each other bright and breezy next time, 7 o'clock Monday next week, where we will continue the online membership system, where we will go to frequently asked questions, where we will help each other, where we will look at the guidelines for conference, and also where we're going to start discussing the criteria for who amongst us, the best amongst us, must deal with leadership. So thank you, everybody. And the session is now adjourned. We see each other again next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Amanda, long live ANC, long live.
And
Long live Malibongwe.
Bye-bye.
Igama la
Igama la
Makosazi.
Makosazi.